Yeah, I think that is that's kind of points to one thing we've heard about this defense. And look, they're not giving away all their secrets, so I think it's going to take a few games to really get a sense for what this defense is looking like. And they're obviously going to be pretty vanilla in the preseason and even in the joint practices that they have with the Titans heading up to that second preseason game. But I think one thing we can say for sure is that this defense is going to be built around disguise and the element of surprise. And as Boye Mafe said there, showing the offense one thing pre-snap and then kind of morphing into something else and to really try to keep the offense guessing. Now, I think what's interesting about that is if you go back and look at the Legion of Boom defense from a decade ago, that really wasn't their MO. Their MO was try to keep things as simple as possible, to try to do fewer things really well and rely on the fact that they do those few things so well, and they've got Pro Bowl, All-Pro, even some Hall of Fame players at multiple levels. And their whole thought was, look, the offense has to deal with them. Like, they're so good defensively that they don't need to go smoke and mirrors. They don't need to try to, trick the offense into thinking they're doing one thing and then do the other thing, because they were so good at what they did that the offense, they felt like, had to deal with them. Now, it's one thing to do that when you've got Richard Sherman, when you've got Earl Thomas, when you've got Bobby Wagner. You've got, again, these All-Pro, Pro Bowl, even some Hall of Famers.
And also a decade ago. We're now offensive rules.
Right.
I do often wonder if that was just the perfect defense for that era as well. Those are some of the most talented players ever, but could they have survived in an era today where every ticky-tack pass interference penalty is called?
And even it's a good point, because even during the height of that run, or maybe even sort of the tail end of it, you saw the NFL start to call things a little differently, and even they complained. I mean, there was a thought kind of in the middle of all that the NFL is trying to crack down on this Seahawks-style defense, and everybody knows the NFL games get more ratings when offenses are lighting it up, and so the thought was that the NFL wanted to maybe try to make it a little bit harder on that defense that was so dominant for a good stretch there. But the point there is that what you're hearing Seahawks defensive players talk about now, it's a much different strategy than what they tried to do a decade ago. And the whole idea is you're going to keep offenses guessing.
And you have to be complex, right? The game on defense is get to the quarterback. And we're seeing the emphasis in that where guys are paid. I mean, all the money is going to defensive lines. You got to pay these interior linemen. You have to pay edge rushers, because the game is get to a Joe Burrow or Patrick Mahomes and don't let them have time to challenge a secondary, because it's just not conducive to defenses being as effective as they were. But with all that we heard from Boye Mafe and what we've heard from Leonard Williams and all these other guys in the defensive line, how challenging is that? Because it sounds like, hey, we have versatility, we have flexibility to do almost anything. It sounds like that requires a lot of communication and just an intuitive understanding of what everyone else might be doing on a given play.
Yeah, and for those guys up front that you mentioned, it sounds like they are going to be asked to move around and play a lot of different positions. So, I mean, look, there's a couple schools of thought here that some players might prefer just to do one thing and to play one position and to really master that position. And maybe that gives you a better feel for that one thing that you have to do. Maybe that becomes a little easier. I think the flip side of it, and the reason why you're seeing them do the opposite of that, which is their plan is to really move these guys around. We talked to Leonard Williams in minicamp, and he was saying that he's basically playing 6 different positions, or he's learning 6 different positions. So naturally, he's a 3-technique defensive tackle, but he's learning 5 other positions. We didn't hear from Draymond Jones, but it sounds like that's the plan with him as well, is they're going to move him around quite a bit. Now, there's going to be some guys, Jonathan Hankins, he sort of is what he is, right? He's a big nose tackle, 320-plus pounds. He's probably going to be playing nose, and he's going to be playing on early downs. But for the rest of those guys, Jaron Reed, Leonard Williams, Draymond Jones, you're going to see those guys move around. Even some of the outside linebackers, you might see them rushing from the inside every now and again. So the point is, and I thought Leonard Williams did a really good job of explaining this, which is that, when offenses, see these guys on film, it's a lot easier for them to game plan for Draymond Jones if he's just lining up as a 5 technique, right? If he's just at defensive end and he's in that one spot, it's a lot harder for them not knowing where he's going to be on a given snap. Now, again, the flip side of that is you're asking these defensive linemen to learn multiple positions, and maybe they don't get to really perfect one spot like they would if they were just sticking to one thing.